Welcome back to Scratching the Surface on episode 40. Today, I will be reviewing Final Destination Bloodlines. Before I get into the episode, please check us out at scratchingthesurface100.com. You can read our monthly article blogs. You can leave and write your own horror movie reviews, and you can stay up to date for future horror movies for the year of 2025 and beyond. So, the sixth installment in the franchise, directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, written by Guy Busick and Laurie Taylor. There was a decent amount of hype with this movie, but not a lot. I think people were expecting this to maybe fall flat, a typical cheesy extension to a franchise that is unwarranted. But I think everybody that went to this and saw it has been pretty surprised so far, pleasantly surprised, I should say. And I would be one of those people. I'll keep the first couple of minutes of this spoiler free, and then I'll kind of transition into more spoiler heavy content. But if you love Final Destination as a franchise, if you've enjoyed the movies before, you're going to have a great time here. You really will. I think they take everything from the franchise and then they build off of it perfectly in this film. Just enough of flavor and just enough of spicing up the story to bring in new people as well, while catering towards that older audience that has enjoyed the movies that have came before. There are some really well thought out deaths in this movie. There's been some really good ones over the years with the other 5 movies, but this one really tops them in some of the scenes, especially. I think the opening scene as a whole of this film is by far one of the best full scenes we've seen from this franchise. It's exceptional. It's a full like freaking 15-20 minutes worth in that first scene that we spend time in. That's extremely tense, and the deaths are so well thought out, so creative, yet still conceptually possible in our minds to happen. Very unlikely, but those things can happen. Freak accidents happen, and they put it on display perfectly in that first scene. And several of the deaths are absolutely freaking squeamish worthy, and just they have you in your seats, skin crawling, hair raising, all of that stuff. So I had a really good time with it overall. There is a storyline that's just enough to keep you somewhat engaged in the film. It's very base level, as you would expect, but it's able to tie into the original and the other films that came before and maybe act as a potential prequel to all of that, which is actually pretty darn neat. We get to see William Bloodworth, played by Tony Todd, his last film ever in his acting career before his death from cancer. So very heartfelt and very cool to see that as well. So the story itself, I'll talk about that. We're kind of entering into the spoilers now. The film starts out at the Skyview restaurant, which is a restaurant way up in the sky in this Space Needle looking building, where we see Iris Campbell and, well, I guess it's not Campbell yet. She isn't married yet, but it's Iris and her boyfriend, Paul Campbell, and they're going on a date to this new restaurant up in the sky. And Iris has a premonition that a lot of stuff is going to go wrong here at this restaurant. There's going to be a lot of deaths. People are going to fall to their death. The place will explode from gas buildup from a punctured gas chamber. And then the dance floor being made of glass, she sees a premonition of that cracking and breaking and people falling down through the dance floor to their deaths. So she sees all of this stuff. She warns everybody, and everybody gets saved. But in this first premonition that we're seeing, this wasn't actually Iris's at this time. It's coming from her granddaughter, Stephanie, who we snap to back in reality, having this nightmare of the restaurant and of the people dying at the restaurant. But we snap back to it's Stephanie in a college class. So she's been having these reoccurring nightmares and these visions of what her grandmother supposedly maybe went through. And she's really curious about it. She's really struggling with it. So she decides to go home and visit her family. Her dad, she asks Marty about it, and he kind of dismisses her and tells her to just drop it. Don't go anywhere more with it. She sees her brother Charlie. They say hi to each other, and then they go to their aunt and uncles, which is Howard and Brenda. And Howard would be the son of Iris Campbell, the woman in that first premonition dream that Stephanie was having. So she thinks that Howard will know something about this. And when she asks Howard as well at their house, Howard dismisses her as well, even more so in a more abrupt manner, telling her that My mother was reclusive. She was overbearing. She was way too overprotective. She's a dangerous woman. Do not see her. Do not contact her. So Stephanie, of course, looks and finds some letters from Iris Campbell, and it's got her address on there. So she goes and sees Iris at her address. And this is where they're talking about everything that she's been seeing in her dreams. And Iris explains to her about that night. She says that that was an actual night. That actually happened. What you're seeing in your dreams and your nightmares, that is what happened to me in real life. But I stopped it because of my premonition. Everybody, including myself, would have died. But because of my premonition, I was able to warn people and get everyone out of there safely before it happened. And then she explains that ever since then, death has been trying to get her and everybody in her bloodline. And then once her bloodline expires, and once death has gotten back and even the score, it goes on to the other family members and bloodlines that were at that restaurant that were saved because of Iris. So Stephanie is this is a little bit much for her. She's like, oh my God, I think I should leave. I should leave. So she leaves, but then Iris says, you know what? No, I have to prove to you that this is real, because if you don't believe me, everybody in our family is going to die. So Iris willingly steps outside, knowing that death is going to get her almost immediately. And sure enough, we see a weather vane rip out of the ground from the wind and impale her through her freaking mouth. And Stephanie is covered in blood. Very shocking, but I think that is enough for sure to show Stephanie that this is real. Death is coming for our family. Now, she has a book with all of the information she's been recording over death, how to cheat it, the people she's come across, and possible ways to avoid it. Again, cheat it if you can. So she gives this to Stephanie to use for their own good and for their own safety. And, they have the funeral for Iris Campbell, the mother of Howard, and the mother of Darlene, who was the mom to Stephanie and Charlie. But Darlene has been kind of MIA in Stephanie's life. She definitely was affected more than Howard by the upbringing they got from their mother, Iris. So Darlene comes back into the picture. She tries to convince Darlene that this is real. And everybody initially does not believe her. But once we see another death occur, 2 deaths especially, we see Howard get killed by a lawnmower, which was insane. And then we also see Julia get killed by a garbage compactor, which was also insane. She gets hit by a soccer ball, falls into the trash bin, and then the trash bin puts her into the back, and she gets compacted to death. So once those 2 deaths happen, everybody is bought in, and they now believe her. And they find out that this is going in the order of the family, from oldest to youngest. So this is kind of a fun twist on the story, is now we know the order being by age. We can anticipate it and find ways to avoid it before it gets to us. So that's kind of a new twist to it. Some more goes on, and they decide in the book, she sees a note about a man named JB, who is played by Tony Todd. That's William Bloodworth, the mortician from the other movies, who knows a lot about this. And we see him noted in the book. Iris Campbell knew about him and thinks that he knows some information regarding death. So they decide to go see Tony Todd's character, which was really cool. He explains that you can either take somebody's life or you can bring somebody back to life after dying. Those are the 2 ways to cheat death. So they decide to give Bobby, Howard's son, a peanut butter cup, since he's extremely deathly allergic to nuts. And he goes crazy. Obviously, he starts having his throat close up and his eyes are getting all puffy, and he really is struggling. And they're at the hospital in a room by an MRI. And this MRI somehow in the process gets turned on to like the highest level and acts as a magnet, and everything starts freaking magnetizing to it. We see Eric's character, the brother of Bobby, who had not died yet, get sucked into the MRI machine with a wheelchair behind him, and the wheelchair impales his stomach, and he gets bent into the MRI machine. And it's absolutely insane. I'll never look at an MRI machine the same way. I mean, it was actually a really, really good scene, and I think one of the best ones in the movie by far. That was insane, absolutely insane. And then after that, we have the family members that are left. The only ones that are left at that point is literally Darlene, and then also we have Stephanie and her brother Charlie. That's all we have left by the end of the movie. All of the deaths have taken place. They're at Iris's house. They decided that this is the best place to go. We have to hang low. We got to hide out in this house to at least avoid death until we can figure something out. Well, death, it just finds you immediately. The house blows up pretty much the moment they get there. The RV that they took from the hospital to the house is knocked over into a small pond where Stephanie nearly drowns. She has to be resuscitated by Charlie, and Darlene is killed by a pole that falls flat on her head. So Charlie resuscitates Stephanie, and that transitions into the final scene where Charlie is at his high school prom and they're taking pictures for it and all that good stuff. And they're talking amongst each other like Stephanie was saved, brought back from the dead, thus cheated death. But we find that Charlie's date's dad, who's a doctor, is saying, well, technically you didn't die. Your heart was still beating. So he didn't technically bring you back from the dead. And that little reveal is good. So Charlie and Stephanie look at each other like, oh shit. And we see a train that went off the rail, plow into this neighborhood, and nearly kill Stephanie and Charlie. They think they're free. They think they're scot-free, but these two logs get launched off of one of the carts of the train, and they start running again, but they get absolutely just obliterated by this freaking log, the both of them. So there are literally no surviving members in the film at this point, leading into the final credits, which is really crazy. And the cool thing here is that this movie can act as a prequel. Now we see Iris Campbell's bloodline finished. It's possible that we lead into the other final destinations being the family members from the other people at the restaurant, which would be kind of a cool tie-in if that's the case. And it seems like it might be. So a lot of good deaths, a story that's just enough to keep you engaged, and a potential lead into the other movies is enough to make this really, really enjoyable. I think it's one of the biggest surprises this year. I thought the trailers looked pretty average, and to get something good here was a pleasant surprise. So I'm going to go with a solid 3 out of 5 on this one. I think it's definitely worth the watch. If you've seen it, what were your thoughts? That is all for now, guys. Thank you, and keep watching horror.